Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Doppler's Gear Garage, episode number 26. 26, that's nuts. How does that happen? Well, it happens because of you. And tonight, in our continued mission, it's all about serving you and informing you about some of the cool stuff that's out there in the world, new pieces of gear that come bundled with software, and new pieces of things that you can use to kind of make yourself loud and clear, apparent to the world. Guitars, amps, modelers, reactive load boxes with IRs. Oh boy, we're going to have a lot of fun. So, what is the mission tonight? Got a couple of things in mind. First of all, good to see everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It is such a privilege and a pleasure to have you with us. I did not send out a an announcement message tonight because I really wanted to kind of go, let's see, hey, what's going on? Noah, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Pleasure to have you on board here. And everybody, if you want to take a moment and let me know where you're tuning in from, say hello to the Doppster so the Doppster can say hi to you. That'd be great. So where we're going tonight is talking about gear, and also kind of formulating kind of the idea of kind of where this show is going to be moving, potentially day slash time wise, as well as content wise. I think one of the things about musicians is they're always wanting to evolve and take what they're doing with their craft and hopefully have it evolve and grow into something. And I'm feeling the call to cover more gear with more depth, and in turn kind of serve what it is that you guys are looking for. Hello, Andreas. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you. G-Man, what's up? What's up? So the idea is I would love it if you would flood me with your questions about gear, kind of your insights about kind of what you're like, hey, I wish you could cover this or more of this. Obviously, we've been in the midst of this lesson flow. For me, that's allowed me to express, hello, Brad. Good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. Really a privilege and a pleasure to have you on board. The idea is to figure out where it is that we're going to go. The neat thing is that I would venture to say that I have the privilege of having a community of guitar players that I get a chance to hang out with. As I endeavor to grow this community, I want it to reflect the community rather than than just kind of what I do. And one of the great things about the lesson process over the past couple of weeks is that, as a music educator, there's always the thought, well, I think this is important for people. But it's not until you hear certain comments and get feedback about specific things that you ultimately know what really resonates with people. And the great thing about getting a little bit older is that, I've always been fortunately, most of the time, a relatively confident person. Most of the time that serves me, but that can, in your younger years, preclude you from seeing the reality of what's really going on around you. So as I've gotten a little bit older, I'm like, I want to take the temperature in the room and figure out what's really going on. So that said, I really want to, Mike Rand, what's going on? There we go. Come on. There we go. Fishman Guitar. Mike, always a pleasure. Mike was responsible for the odd metered section of the odd metered Locrian lesson a couple of days ago. Fishman Guitar, welcome aboard. Thank you so much. Richard Doyle. Oh, he's already got a more detailed explanation of pickup height and the changes it make, and maybe some focus on great neck pickups. Okay, I'm going to start with my favorite neck pickup of all time. I'm going to take that bait and run with it. The PAF Joe, if you're working with a wide aperture humbucking pickup, and I say wide aperture because when we think of a traditional humbucker, we think of a wide aperture pickup. This little guy in here, I'm pretty sure is a narrow aperture humbucking pickup. So we used to be able to say humbucking and single coil, but that's not necessarily an accurate description. The wide aperture, like photography and so on and so forth, refers to the width, if you will, the size of the hole through which you're allowing these, in this case, sound waves or whatever the heck it is that comes off, the vibrations, thank you very much, the vibrations to kind of have access to this electromagnetic field. And if you think about pinch harmonics, you only have to move a little tiny bit for those harmonics to change pretty dramatically. And so this is one of the reasons why for many years, and again, the young Dobster there, 24 fret neck guitars, you lose the harmonic. In case you didn't know, so you open up the door, so here we go. On a traditional Stratocaster, this pickup is directly underneath where the 24th fret is. Now, I don't know whether Leo and George were complete and total geniuses or just the luckiest guys in the world, because I will say, just if we're just going to go there, thank you, Rich, the brightest pickup on a very bright guitar, they're like, hey, can we make that even brighter? It's like, and by the way, let's get rid of the tone control while we're at it, right? It's just kind of like, That said, sticking that puppy immediately underneath the 24th fret was pure genius, or the greatest accident that pretty much all of us have the benefit of today. And, so as we look at these instruments, in many ways, the things that George and Leo either were absolute geniuses about and or were just completely lucky about, we have the downstream influence of that. And so the 24 fret thing, this is the first, no, that's not true. S5470, this is the second S series 24 fret neck instrument that I've gotten. To answer your question, Richard, the PAF Joe, in terms of a wide aperture humbucking pickup for a neck position, and I know we're probably talking about your Strat there, which means I'm kind of, and you probably already put it down there on the notes, but it's the best sounding neck pickup I have ever heard. And so that was, I think there was the Mojo preceded that, and then the PAF Joe was that is, it's just got everything that you would love in the neck position for a wide aperture humbucking pickup. It's just magic. It's got the Hendrixy top end. The bottom end is present without being tubby because it's a wide aperture humbucking pickup. It doesn't make noise. It's just kind of like, I've used it in these guitars. Joe and I had a conversation about it, and he was just like, yeah, it's a magical pickup. Now, he moved to a 24 fret neck instrument, so that meant that he actually needed to go to a narrow aperture pickup here, and I think he's using the Satch Tracker or something like that, which my guess is they tried to take the vibe of that and then bring that there. The reality is, Steve Blucher, the guy that's designed the vast majority of the DiMarzio pickups out there, is such a genius that the real trick is to kind of take the tonal characteristic of what you would do for a pickup that is underneath the 24th fret, that is to say the second octave of the instrument, and then kind of make a pickup that has those tonal characteristics when it's actually located further towards the bridge. So to answer your question, I think it's called the Satch Track, and if you're looking for something in the narrow aperture mode, that might be a great place to start, but I have not used that pickup. Okay, let's see here. There we go. Good. Gear is good, but using it, or should I say learning how to mix with it, is the most important thing. I love it. Yep. So Brad, so you are obviously on a mixing recording kick. So, I will also put this out to the family here. A big part of what I am madly passionate about is all this wacky, crazy, audio interfacey, get it directly into your camera so it sounds great, and potentially just bring all that down the pipeline via HDMI, the gear that's out there. So, I would love to take, a temperature reading of kind of where people are at. Yeah, throw that stuff in there too, because I can studio geek out all day long with this, and I'm madly passionate about it. So that feedback is great. Hello, Rick. Good to see you. Actually, great to see you. Mr. Stark, hello. Stark Industries, we are joined by the man, the legend himself. Good to see you. Congratulations on your endeavor in the... can you put what you were in Hawaii... The Hits of the Stars of Hawaii. It was some very cool talent thing for honoring Hawaii's talent. So congratulations on that. That's great. Love that guitar. It does look like this guy, doesn't it? You kind of. The funny thing is now that I think about it, I actually, and I don't have it in this room, so I can't grab it. Joe Satriani's first album, not of this, or technically his second album, but it had this kind of. I was actually at his place. I'd forgotten about this. I was at his place, and he had these little slides, and we were looking at the slides that he was trying to figure out which one we were going to choose. I'm like, well, how do you like this one? It's kind of funny. So, all right. Chris Alexander, hello. Great to see you. Great to see you. Great to see you. Oh, good. Okay. So last night, Rick tuned in for this other show that I do, the Worship Guitar Show. And we talked about the unfortunate thing. I wanted to love this little camera. This is the Zoom Q2N. Yeah, there you go. And what I love about it is I am an absolute fanatic about Zoom products. I just wasn't a fanatic about this product. And they just, every so often, a company doesn't build everything as totally phenomenal as everything else they build. But this Zoom stuff is great. We're going to come back to that because it's right in front of me. Here we go. Well done, Rick. The Sony stuff is great. Before you buy anything, talk to the Doppster. And we'll talk about budget and kind of all of that. The other things, ladies and gentlemen, and I bet, okay, hang on. Richard Doyle, first of all, JS2400 almost fell over the first time I heard. There you go. Steve Blucher. Those came with the JS1200, if I remember correctly. There we go. PAF Joe, my 550. There you go. Love that. So, Brad, you're going to call me out on Digitech guitar pedals. So, the funny thing is, you said you were using the GNX4. And the most important thing is if you love it, you love it. I am not a massive fan of the Digitech stuff. I should say the multi-effect stuff. There are a number of pedals there. What were their high-end series where they made that reverb and the delay? I absolutely love those, and I think they've been discontinued. But I remember being in China. Remind me later, and I'll tell you about my Chinese riding in the van on the way to a clinic experience in China, if you dare. But Hardwire. So you were saying, that they were going to put out this Hardwire series before it came out, and I was like, I don't know about that. And those pedals came out, and they are great, and I think they've been discontinued, unfortunately. But here's the thing: is I will always endeavor to answer stuff honestly. The Hardwire stuff is phenomenal. Their looper pedals, phenomenal. I'm not as big a fan of the GNX stuff. Sorry. And if you love it, do not let my opinion thereof influence you, because I think that had like a drum machine pattern thing builder. So in terms of creation, if it's your doorway to creating, don't let me and my bad attitude get in the way. With pleasure, Rick. With pleasure. Okay, here we go. Can I pronounce this? The Nahoku Awards. It's like the Hawaiian version of the Grammys. Dude, fist bump. With great pleasure, Chris. You are a constant source of friendship, inspiration, and great playing. So, that's what we do. We lift each other up, right? Right. Okay, we'll do laugh out loud. Yeah, so, okay. All right. So, looking around at all this stuff, it's old, and old doesn't mean bad, by the way, and which is great. Hello, Tom. How you doing? Good to see you, my friend. So here's the thing. Bring in all your kind of I ask away, and I will, as I've already done, I will answer everything as honestly and as faithfully as I possibly can with the goal that we're going to do. So I have a trivia question. Yes, Justin York. So G-Man, the York Audio Impulses. Justin is a dear friend, Justin York, that is, and we will be doing some video content around his IRs, and yes, they are fabulous. There you go, old equals vintage. Where did you hear about Justin's IRs, York Audio? Did you Gear Page, or did you see? You saw the Pete Thorne video, didn't you? I bet you did. Let me know. Okay, so. And yes, old equals vintage, which I'm very vintage. Okay. Focus, Fox. So one of the things that is really unique about kind of what I get a chance to do is I have a plethora of gear that shows up here. and I'm feeling increasingly moved to bring that into the show, still figure out how we have guests, but I want to, in theory, craft a show that has a bit of a, oh, there we go, gear page. Oh boy, here we go. Oh, I knew this was gonna happen. Looking at HX Stomper GT1000 core, which would I recommend? Oh boy, oh boy. So noting that I am friends in both camps, I knew it was only a matter of time until I got asked that question. So let me just take a moment, and we're going to leave that up on the screen while I come back to this thing. I got to show this though. Helen Keller. I guess this is a it's heavy metal braille. I hope I didn't offend somebody there because that could have been really politically incorrect. So please forgive me if I did. All right. So I'm going to come back to this question. I'm going to leave it up here so I don't forget. So the thing is that there is a huge amount of gear that's floating in here. And I am at a point. The great thing about this lesson series is it's just kind of gotten me just madly immersed in just producing a prolific amount of content. The short version, without going too far down the rabbit trails, on Monday I literally worked a 30-hour day. Because some days you just got to do that. And so like I did a Fender bass video. We shot the Boss content. I did 2 stories for Worship Musician Magazine. I did social media. I did a lesson. I think that was the day that I did the odd meters and the Locrian thing. It's like, there are times that you just got to go for it and embrace the whatever the heck it is. But the point being is, I'm really excited about sharing this gear that's here because I think we get a chance to take a journey together that I want to take. So if you guys want to hear more about gear, give me some comments here and just like more gear, more gear, more gear, more gear. The other thing is, also the things that you'd like to hear more about with as much detail, that is to say, threaded things that we can continue to do. I am strongly considering moving this show from Wednesday nights to Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific, which would be 12 noon Eastern. The reason being is I think it's actually a better time, especially once people get into a little bit more of a normal workflow. So I'd love to hear people's thoughts. The other thing is like my buddy, Chris Stark, I got more stuff for you. I got something for you I think you're going to love. At least I hope so. My buddy Daniel from Gig Rig, like I want to get Daniel and all these people that I know from Europe, and this time slot basically makes Europe an impossibility. And I think I can get, when we go to have guests, I can get a broader collection of people. So I want to know if people are like, Saturday really is terrible, or I think that might be better. The other thing is that RJ Ronquillo is basically from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific. So obviously I want to make sure I do not crawl into somebody else's lane, both to get creamed by them as they run over me, but also out of respect to their time slot. Obviously, RJ's got this amazing, great show, but it would be really disrespectful for me to move my whatever it is that I'm doing here into his time slot. That's just not cool. Okay. I've got this comment up here. Chris Alexander calling me out. Thank you very much. That is a great question. I will say this. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to line up the dots. Because, here's the thing. Is like, I knew this was going to happen eventually. And I'm actually glad that it's happening in a particularly public forum. And I do not fault you for that. Because it's a great question. They are obviously, I tell you what. With that said, I'm going to jump to a clip that's going to give you a hint of what the GT1000 core can do. So Chris Stark, coming at you. Okay, that is the Dougster having an awful lot of fun. And, pretty much, if I pick... The reason I bought a Strat was because of Jeff Beck. So pretty much, the beginning of my Strat journey was like, what can I do to imitate Jeff Beck at, every opportunity that I can when I'm not imitating. Believe it or not, we have dogs. But my guess is that's a delivery. When I'm not imitating Jimi Hendrix or Stevie Ray Vaughan or any of the other Strat people that I so love. And arguably, kind of one of my larger musical gifts is the ability to parrot things that I love, and then every so often I actually come up with something that to me I'm going like, I don't remember where I stole that from. The point being is that sound was the GT1000 core, and what that thing has, the processing power of the GT1000 core is greater than HX Stomp. Now that said, first of all, Line 6 has been an incredible supporter of what I do and continues to be, and I'm using Helix for all the lessons, in the 30-day technique tune-up challenge. And I can't talk about that. When the thing I can't talk about happens, you'll know. And I was using Helix for that. And that's all I'm going to say. And I said too much, but you'll know when you know. So the thing is that, the funny thing is that as I've been thinking about the fact that somebody's going to ask this really logical question, I have a responsibility to answer it honestly. If I were going to buy one or the other, here are the things that I would use to formulate my decision. I think they both sound great. They both have other devices in which they fall in that family. I think it's fairly safe to say that the Helix has had a much greater adaptation in the marketplace than the GT1000, especially in the house of worship. Little backstory here, as you heard last week, I have a huge amount of history with the GT products. I have an STE 3000 floating around here somewhere, original CE1 chorus, two JC120s. I am, immersed in Boss and Roland products to a great extent. So Jeff Slingluff, basically the guitar product manager who was on the show last week, used to be at Line 6. So the interesting thing about, although it's not a kind of an intellectual property thing, is that, as people move from company to company, they do take their expertise with them, and they also take the things that they learned with them. So Jeff also, I believe, was responsible not only for the DL4, but the HD500 as well. So the thing is that he's a brilliant mind, and the GT1000 core had the benefit of having some gestation after the HX Stomp came out. And if I would say if there was the biggest difference between them is that there is more processing power in the GT1000 core, and literally anything that the GT1000 can do in terms of pure processing power, the GT1000 core can do. So that part they really, really nailed. That said, if the Helix ecosystem is one that really appeals to you, which it does to me, I have been a Helix user for probably 3 years. First experience using Helix was with Phil Collin and Paul Gilbert at the G4 Experience Camp in Cambrian. Literally, I got a call. I got an email from Joe's manager saying, "We need you to play rhythm guitar for Phil Collin on a song, Hysteria." And I was like, my moment has come, because I've always dreamed of being in Def Leppard, and I realized this was not an invitation to join Def Leppard, but if this is as close as I ever come, I will gleefully march into that moment. So it was like my buddy Andrew Bonica sent me his Helix, and I basically dialed up what were extremely close to the sounds on that record. And the great thing is Joe was literally standing about 10 feet away when I played with Phil and Paul's band that night. And afterwards I came off stage and he said, "That sounded just like the record." I mean, it was like, I was like, yes. And I got to tell you, it's totally unnerving playing for a group of people and knowing like the guy with the biggest ears in the world is like right there. And, I'm on stage, right? He's right there. And I'm like, he's watching and listening to everything that I'm doing, because I'm literally in the path of him looking at Phil Collin. It was just nuts. But that was a great taste test. And that, if you understand the gear and you understand how to use it, then arguably I kind of do the same thing with these boxes over and over. And that said, I'm going to pull up another clip here. This one, and I posted this on social media, but I want to play this again tonight. So let me do that. This is the right one. Yes. All right. So for me, the whole thing is what happens when I plug into the box. Does it take me somewhere that I haven't been before? You know, I've had so many great musical experiences with Helix that, in some senses, the newness of it is not new to me. But because of that, I'm also extremely familiar with the architecture. I have basically all the different form factors, so it means that I can use it anywhere and everywhere that I would do it. And I chose to use it for the lessons. I chose to use it. We did something with Line 6 and Sweetwater that was basically a training course on Helix for. They ran a special on Sweetwater where you would get the Warship tutorial guys some presets for them and a training course that I did with Andrew Monica on how to use Helix. So, you know, I love Helix. I am getting ready to spend a lot of time with the Axe effects. I've spent a fair amount of time in Kemper World, but the Axe effects is the next thing that I'm going to just kind of making sure that I can speak fluently in all these different languages. And, you know, needless to say, you know, there's a lot of people using that. But to get back to answering this question, the form factor and continuing on with the other products in the line is a really important piece of that. And one of the big strengths that you've got with both of these is that there's a preceding piece of gear, and I am 99.9% positive that you can, with the deep editors for both of them, you can kind of share sounds between the different form factors. The biggest challenge and the biggest disadvantage that HX Stomp has for it is it has less processing power compared to Helix. So, you know, if you're looking for that, that would be it. And, you know, the thing is, the algorithms that are in the GT1000 core, there are some sounds in there that are different than I would naturally program. So I think there's a lot of music in that box that I have yet to discover. So for me, in this moment, being where I am, I'm going to spend a little bit more time in the discovery mode in that and figure out who I'm going to be in that box. What's great is that, you know, with Helix, I kind of already know who I'm going to be with that player, and there's a lot of confidence in walking into just about any situation with that. I didn't answer that as succinctly as I wish I could have, but it's a great question. I love it. Thank you. What is IR? Thank you for asking that. So, Brad, and IR, interestingly enough, in case those of you have not met Brad, Brad, say hello. Hello to everybody. Brad is a recording guitar player, obviously playing live there. And so he's spending a lot of time in the studio. And so an impulse response, generally speaking, impulse's responses started off in digital reverbs. And it's basically kind of a digital model of what was originally a room. So they would basically be a capture of sound in a space in a digital expression of that. That's a really crappy explanation, but that'll get us close enough there. So basically, that's the same thing for a speaker, and quite often that speaker is being processed through various preamps, EQs, compression, mixing console, channel strip. So it is a processed sound of a mic'd speaker in a cabinet. So it's basically like a speaker cabinet on tap as we traditionally use IR, impulse response. Great question. So the deal is, where they are of great value is in three primary places. And I love this. I'm so glad you asked this. One, the place guitar players started using it was initially in their DAWs, probably most commonly. You can use them inside plugins, and basically you can run your direct preamp power amp signal. Let's just say you're taking you've got some sort of load box that does not have any speaker simulation on it, or it may have speaker simulation, but you choose not to use it. And you run that into your DAW, you load a plugin, and Brian Wampler has a great video about that on YouTube. Imagine that. And then you basically load these IRs in there. And so it's basically a cabinet on tap. But what's neat about it, it allows you to try in different cabinets with or without the same speakers. Most people have a tendency to gravitate towards a particular speaker that they like. More often than not, it's a Celestion in a higher gain setting. And more often than not, they gravitate towards a particular 412 cabinet, like Marshall 412 cabinets, or the Boogie cabinets that are just out of frame there, those tall rectifier cabinets. I love those. And the interesting thing about these different cabinets is those tall rectifier cabinets that I had the Chris Stapleton brown face Princeton here for review from Fender, and I plugged into one of those Boogie cabinets. I was like, it was just awesome. And it's important to keep in mind that Boogie really got their start modding Fender amplifiers. So there's a lot of Fender hanging out in Boogie. So it wasn't a great surprise that it sounded great through a Boogie cabinet. But the point being, each one of these cabinets, somebody mentioned Justin York. Justin and I had actually this great conversation. So for those of you that want a rabbit trail, I won't go all the way down the rabbit trail, but I'll go there. Justin and I had this conversation about played and unplayed Boogie cabinets, and he tours with Paramore, and one of the things he was talking about was one of the cabinets got a lot more play over the years than another one, and he said night and day they sound different. That the wood gets broken in, and it's not just the speakers, but the cabinet itself really sounds different because of play. And he said, look, they were very close in terms of serial numbers. They were bought at the same time, more or less the same batch of wood, probably, but they literally got shipped to Paramore at the same time, and boom. So and Justin York knows his stuff, and he's an exceptionally nice guy. Hate him. So that's a great question. All right, so am I. Hold on, I missed the first part there. Old equals vintage. Awesome. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Feel the love. Hello, Helen Keller. Good to see you. Talk about indecisiveness. Devil is caught in the act. Both killer pedals. They absolutely are. I think in terms of which one does more, I think they're pretty evenly yoked, and I think ultimately the decision is which camp do you want to be in, because I kind of once I go down a road, for example, like Zoom, I have a tendency to hang out there, right? So I and as a point of reference, many of the people that I know here tonight, I know from the guitar camps, and kind of like there was a period of time the most insane thing that I've ever had to do was I figured out how to be in two places at the same time, where I had to man two different video cameras and audio coming off the boards into Zoom handheld recorders. One of these. This is one of these. I ended up buying a second one. These guys are phenomenal. So I'm all in when it comes to Zoom. So the thing is, they've never broken. They've never failed in operation. They're just phenomenal. So the point being is then you have to decide which brand has the most appeal to you in the global sense in terms of that lineage of instruments. Is it a Helix thing that's going to work for you best? Is it a GT thing that's going to work for you best? That, I think, is the underlying question comparing them. So, all right, here, I love what I heard from Boss Demo last week, but I'm concerned about using something like that in a gig setup with a small number of foot switches. Would you recommend the GT1000 over the Core in that case? That is a great question. So, Chris Stark, what a great question. My man. And I love that photo, by the way. So the funny thing is, every time I see that photo, I know this sounds really kind of, it always reminds me of the Sierras, and I think those are palms there. But I always think you're somewhere in the Sierras, knowing that you're in Hawaii. It's pretty silly. But in any case, all right. To answer your question, I'm in the midst of 3 simultaneous conversations, 4-ish, with 3 or 4-ish brands simultaneously around a series of demo series, which is going to be walking people through some of the variations in rigs. And increasingly, the common denominator where more and more people on the industry side of the fence, and mind you, on the industry side of the fence, I'm going to collectively use the word we simply because I get a chance to tag along. But we have a tendency to think we know where things are going. Just look at the popularity of the Kaler and you realize the industry frequently does not get it right. Hello, somebody forgot to turn off his mail. Say bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye. So the thing is that the form factor of a smaller box like that as a delivery system for your pedal board, splitting that signal to go front of house and to an amp, means you can use all your favorite pedals. Or you can pull that smaller form factor off your board and go direct. Or you can take it to church. Or you can just use it into an amp. Or you can use it for cable method with all your favorite pedals. And to answer your question, with a switcher. So I would like to think that as we're kind of beginning to slice and dice this, I will say this from the perspective of purely the church market alone, but this is relevant because in many ways the church market kind of ended up where, quote unquote, we are because they had no choice. Basically, the lights went off on Sunday morning when this COVID thing hit. And churches had to figure out how to stream really fast, which means they needed to know how to get great sound or as good as they could get to stream out when they were going to stream music. So they basically had no time to figure it out. They had plenty of time, but a lot of churches were just like, we just, the streaming thing doesn't matter. And then all of a sudden it became every pipeline for churches. So the point being is having a strategy for how you're going to get your sound into that pipeline and into that pipeline and to be able to navigate the kind of 360-degree experience that separates those. And so the thread that I'm seeing these days is that these smaller boxes are becoming increasingly robust in their ability to provide all those different solutions. And it gives you the freedom via MIDI. It's got 2 stereo effects loops, HX Stomp, stereo effects loop. I think it's just 1 on HX Stomp, maybe 2, and I have one here, so I need to obviously do a little bit of comparison. And no, I'm not going to make a comparison video. I'd love to, but I just might as well just slit my wrists, and it'd be faster than the basting I would get from my friends at in the industry. Here's the thing: it's as you've seen tonight, I have an ethical responsibility to just go, this is how I feel. I love Zoom. I don't think that camera was a good purchase, and I bought, yeah. So the point being, versus one of the best purchases I've ever made. So then the question is, Chris, do you want to have this large board that has all that huge functionality? So it's basically like a Bradshaw switching system with all that stuff there. Or do you want to have something that's a little bit more modular? Now, here's the thing, is I say that looking over at I did a pedal board demo for the RJM PVC6X. And that pedal board is sitting there kind of with 2 or 3 pedals, including my HX Stomp, pulled off of it because I just dread pulling that thing apart. And a bunch of my favorite pedals, like my Strymon pedals are on that board, but I just dread pulling that apart and making another board. That said, that modular sense has a lot of appeal, where if you design your board in such a way where you're placing something like that or HX Stomp kind of at the end of the signal chain, that allows you to get there. The other thing is that it's not down here, but the other conversation that's kind of happening in the background is around, kind of not the torpedo captor, but on Cab M, which is their kind of, it's basically a speaker sim that you can place on your pedal board. It's a smaller device, and it's really intended to basically be an IR loader that sits on your pedal board that has a lot of that functionality, but it is smaller. And so the where we're talking about, the GT1000 core, comparing that with HX Stomp, one would argue that Cab M is a product that would be positioned. I thought I muted you. Is a product that would be positioned across from the Strymon Iridium. And so and the idea is it's on your pedal board, it loads IRs, and you send that signal directly out to the PA or to your DAW. And then kind of, again, the strategy is you've got a split that happens before that you can run to your amps. And we're going to be talking a lot more about that coming soon. Feel free to hit me with more questions. Brad, I do sleep, but I like getting up early. I like actually beating the flow of email. I usually start work at about 6 o'clock Pacific time, because it means that I usually have 3 hours that I can work without having the responsibility to get back to people. Once 9 a.m. rolls around, I have a responsibility to try and get back to people in a timely fashion, because I'm sure everyone here knows what it's like to send an email to somebody and you're just like, how long am I going to have to wait? More gear. I love it. There we go. More gear, Mo Doppler. Love you, bro. Eek, 6 a.m. in Hawaii. Ah. Now I can have dinner on time on Wednesday. Feel the love. Okay. Well, the good news, Chris, is you could watch the rebroadcast. But that poop. Seen more home studios asking about the ART Pro VLA. Okay. So ART is a brand that has been around for a long time, and the young version of Doppler was a little bit of a snoot, but the old ART stuff, it was really strange. Actually, kind of like the GT1000 core, it does not have an on and off switch, and I thought that was so strange. For something that was going to sit in your rack, say you're going to power your studio down, you're going to go away for 2 or 3 weeks. Yes, you have master power, but ideally with something that is a processor, you in theory want to have the ability to power it down. That always seems strange. ART, I think, died as a brand, and somebody bought them and gobbled up their intellectual property. And so I know nothing about the new ART other than the fact that they're the new ART. But, point taken. Saturday noon, I'm recovering from Saturday morning cartoons. That is very cute. Metaltronics. Oh. Am I familiar with the Metaltronics M1000 head? I have been looking for one a couple of years. I can't find one for sale. Outside of Jose, one of the best amps to come out of the 80s. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, Helen Keller, but is that the amp that Zach Wilde was using? Because the Metaltronics amps, what was his name? But those were great amps. I actually have cabinets from Horizon that were designed by the Metaltronics guy that I got in 1995. I've still got them. They have the old vintage 30s. Not that the new ones sound bad, but those cabinets sound amazing. And at one point, sooner than later, I'm going to start doing these rig demos where I'm talking about different rigs. Those cabinets sound unreal. So he designed those cabinets. I would love to get my hands on one of those heads. My suggestion would be to do a search on Reverb. You won't find it, but then you can leave a thing up for notification when somebody lists one. The other thing would be, I think he's down in Texas somewhere. My guess is he still has one. I think he's still got a shop, and I remember reading about that not too long ago. So that might be another approach. But those were great sounding amps. Zach was using one in the Aussie days, and they were hot, hot, hot. Hello, Andrew Bonica. Rock on, my metal-headed friend. How you doing? Great to see you. We were just talking about you. There we go. I would invest in a MIDI controller. Boss makes a great two of them for the board and the GT1000, but that's just me. uh, and add the GT1000 core. That is, and this is the thing: is the ability to pull that stuff apart. I think we're going to find players who like Rich. All right, Rich, trivia question: what camera got announced in the past 24 hours? I already know you know the answer, but now don't go googling. I know you know the answer. Come on. I have an ART Pro VLA. Okay. Um, I will check that out. Hold on. Hold on. Can I select that? No, I can't. All right, hang on. Let me make a note. ART Pro VLA. I will check into that. And can't find one yet. Tell me about it. The Boss stuff is great, and I've been super impressed with the sounds out of the box. I'm usually not a fan of stock presets. It's not like I'm a snoot or anything, but I always kind of like next. I did end up kind of doing some subtle editing, but I was really pleased with what I got out of the box. They're, you know, here's the thing is that I want to speak to your comment about for a physical pedal lineup. They're both beasts. So again, they both have their thing. You know, as I mentioned, I am the ability for me to have my helix tone. Like one of my rigs is a classic example. At the G4 Satriani camp in Palm Springs, I had this helix is on this little roller thing, and I had a pedal board with HX Stomp, a little Klon, and an H9, and I would just basically roll that around. And I was like, I thought it was the neatest thing as I'm kind of rolling my rig around, because all I do is like plug it in wherever I got to. And that sort of modular setup was great. Gosh darn it, that was a lot of fun. I have company. I love it. GT, yep, yeah, there we go. Random dog barks, random endorsements. There we go. They are almost sorry. Everybody can read it, but if you're on a mobile device, let me read Rick's question: Is the processing power more powerful because of the size of the unit, so they could fit more in? They're almost identical in terms of size. Gosh, I'd love to do a comparison video, but I just can't. It's just not cool. The thing about the Boss is that they've just had time to think about what that they were going to do, and I don't know whether it's the same chip that was in the GT1000 at launch. I believe it is, but I can't say that for a fact. But what it was is that Boss is able to design and manufacture to their specs a chip that can allow them to do what they want to do from the ground up. So it is a custom chip set, which usually implies it's more than one chip or a processor, but they are able to, you know, they're a big company, not that Line 6 / Yamaha isn't, but I think they just were able to just kind of go, we want so much processing power so we can have 24 simultaneous effects. And that is one of the biggest differences. It's basically, you can do anything that you want to do, which is a big deal. There we go. The leaker is in the house. HX Stomp will have 8 blocks. So, you know, that kind of gets me to my point. I continuously wave the Line 6 flag. So let me then, you know, with that point in mind is that, you know, you have the GT1000 core, you have 24 simultaneous effects that you can turn on or off at any time. And you can swap out different things. You can do reordering, all stuff, you know, the reordering you can do inside a HX Stomp. But in terms of sheer processing power, I think they just had more time to be able to bring out the hardware, and they've done a great job with it. And yes, the Helix, you know, I've spent more time on a Helix than probably any other piece of gear in the past 10 years, which says an awful lot. That's right. And you know, that's another thing. You know, back in the days of HD 500, so I've been a Line 6 user for a long time. HD 500 Edit, great application, and Boss totally missed the boat by having a great editor. They didn't even have an editor for GT back in those days. But the new editor, which I think I can pull up. Yeah, hang on. This should be it. Actually, it's very nice to look at, and you kind of just can see the signal flow. It's pretty straightforward. I found it to be very user friendly. I made some suggestions about some of the delay stuff was not quite as friendly as I would like, simply because I wanted to have more subdivision options. But that's an easy update in that application. And yes, you can't go wrong. All right. Look at you, Chris. Boy, you cause all sorts of trouble. You're a lovely fellow, by the way. When the lesson series is over, have I thought about burning them to a DVD and selling them? There was a conversation with the chairwoman of the board where she said, are you going to plan on leaving them up? It's a great question. So I'm gonna answer this under maybe. So with that said, and I'm really glad you asked. Here's the thing. My number one mission, and it is I will say it's not like I'm business blind, but I also have the strategy is that if your number one goal is, it's kind of like, In and Out. Like, generally speaking, you go to In and Out, you're going to have an amazing experience. So guess what happens when you have an amazing experience? You go back. So my number one goal is to create a quality guitar experience for people that's so good they want to come back, and hopefully that continues to attract more people. The interesting thing is that be it my students or kind of what we're doing here during this time that was a challenge for so many people, this has been it's just been the source of growth. Pretty much everybody I deal with in the industry knows what I'm doing. My numbers are not ginormous, but they also know, thanks to you, and I mean all of you, but also there's a group of you that they know are from these guitar camps. They understand that the folks from the guitar camps love gear. Andrew Bonica being the perfect example. He's only got about 24 guitars. Chris Stark being an example, right? And Rick Costa, you've bought a new a vintage Ibanez. Your gear. These are people that are gear fanatics. So the ability to have the kind of visibility this has brought me has had dividends of other sorts than a Rick Beato sized audience. And honestly, I'm just starting. I love hard work, but you know what? Rick gets to do what he does, and I love that. I get to do what I do, and I love this, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. If instantly somebody say, I'll give you 1 million subscribers, take over the show, I'd be like, if it came at the expense of losing this show, I wouldn't do it, because this is a group of people that I'm invested in. So the lesson thing was like, I'm going to make an investment into the community of people because they've made an investment into me that has paid dividends. So you know what? I'm going to do it as a thank you. I didn't ask for anybody's email address. I was on a live stream. I'm actually going to go there. I'm not going to mention the guy's name. Watching his live stream, and kind of at one point, and it's not RJ. So let me just be clear in saying that, because RJ is like totally legit, and this guy's legit. But he actually, I can't say the nuance, but basically he said during the live stream, well, it's all about building up my email list, and I was like, never, ever, ever say that to your audience, ever. So you're basically like, yo, bitches, give me your money. I'm just like, it's just like, even if you're doing smart things like, hey, I want to build my social media, I want to serve my audience and grow my audience, but like to really basically just say, I'm doing XXXXX so I can grow my email list. I'm like, it basically was like, it said everything that's the antithesis of what I'm trying to do here, which is create genuine relationship and rapport and trust, such that as I potentially bring market offerings, people are like, well, he supported us. I want to help support him, and it's not even an obligation. But the deal is I'm also learning so much as I'm doing these lessons. Like, the funny thing is that watching Doug back last night and the night before, watching, like, I'm all loosey goosey, and I'm like, the guy that started 13 days ago now, and this guy, totally a different guy. I'm like, that's a sort of dividend that money just can't buy. So the point being is that I'm probably going to leave them up there. I also know they have rewards as people could potentially discover them on YouTube. So the answer is the wife had suggested leave them up for 3 months. I'm inclined in that conversation. She's not about the money. That's not her thing. But she was like, you should offer them as some sort of course curriculum. But I'm inclined to leave them up. That's so funny. Thanks, Brad. Well, we know everybody knows 3.0 is coming. Yeah, no. I gotta tell you're funny. Yeah, I can assure you, I will be leaving the shirt on. Holy cow! Yes. We are absolutely in a golden age. It has never been better. Never, never, never. Oh my word! Hey, Anton Shred, what's going on, my man? Look at you. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for stopping by. Bring some questions. The direct thing is really cool. Now, oh, you can't see it. There it is. So right down below there is a new amplifier. Well, the one on top is too, but it is a. I'm not going to go there yet. It is an amp that is designed after another very famous amplifier, and I'll just leave it at that. But it's really interesting, spending so much time going straight and direct, spending time with the amp in the room. They are different experiences, but the direct experience is an amazing one. Just amazing. Well, thank you very much. Blame it on the gear. All right. Yes, there have been many firmware upgrades since Helix came out 5 years ago. Vastly different, better unit than it was. Users have continually been receiving free updates for years, making it even more valuable than when they originally paid for. And this is one of the things about Line 6. And I know these guys really well, which is why I really hated answering that question. But at the same time, the great thing is that Line 6 is a company that I work very closely with. And if I can't be realistic about the question you guys are asking me, then I shouldn't be doing this. Is really what it comes down to, because it's an integrity play, which is kind of going, hey, there's some differences. I use it all. There you go. Use it all. And Line 6 has just been great about that. The PodGo is a great resource. And so Andrew Bonica can so yes, I have PodGo here. I have not spent a huge amount of time inside PodGo, so I cannot answer if for a fact they are the exact same algorithms running on the exact same engine. But Andrew Bonica can and hopefully will. Hey, Brad. Here we go. The PodGo is a less expensive device that does not have as much processing power. But, the reality is, if you sat down and played a sound on PodGo, and then played the same, models, the device models on Helix, especially in a track, no one could tell the difference. I mean, that's kind of, the deal. So, yeah. And, yes, that is a JSX there. And right below that is a JVM 410H. Gosh dang it. This guitar is a... Holy cow. S1070 PBZ. And it's a great guitar. I will say the interesting thing about getting to know this instrument, this is a lot of quarter sawn wood. So in case you don't know what quarter sawn is, basically if you imagine this is the guitar neck, and then this is the pieces of wood turned such that instead of the grain, kind of the flat part of the wood going like this along the width of the neck, it's turned on end, and the neck's cut from that. It makes for a much, much stiffer neck. And one of the things that took a little bit of getting used to is how little give this guitar would make when it was like that. Somebody was telling me a story about Eddie Van Halen, that they were playing a guitar that was out of he was playing a guitar out of tune, and basically he was gently pushing on the neck to make the intonation change as he was playing the guitar, and that's totally doable. Um, but yeah, yep, yes. Okay, love it, love it, love it, love it. Numero 24. Doug, what's going on, mate? Good to see you. How are things in Australia? How goes it there? You're in Sydney and not Melbourne, right? Melbourne, for those of you that don't know, is in mad lockdown. My favorite Australia. That sounds like a show. My favorite Australia. Boy, look who's popular here. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, Brad, back with more gear. Come on, here we go. All right. I have a Mesa Boogie 412 4YB driven with 50/50 and a rectifier, but I also use a PV Bandit. And I think that 112 and 2, I think that's in the photo there. I bought PV because I heard Joe used a PV. I love it. 412YB, 4YB, 4YB. In any case, yeah, love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And that, that's the interesting thing about gear is like the influence of the players. It's huge. Modular for the studio, and I want as few music as parts when possible when gigging. This is, and that is a really, 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 says the guy that just bought all the preamps, but that's kind of funny. There is a lot to be said about, especially if you're traveling across country, if one were, across the island, as your pedals are bouncing around in the back of some van. The idea of having stuff as, in that sense, sometimes I've just got my amp, it's in a road case, I bring it out, I've got a rack unit. The other interesting thing, as you kind of already discovered, Chris, with the Synergy stuff, is there's a move back to racks as well, which is a very interesting thing. Like, this is here. We're going to see more products showing up in racks very soon. So that's the other interesting part of that conversation. There we go. My favorite Hawaiian. That is very cute. Feel the love. You guys are too funny. Oh, there we go. Nice setup, dude. Very nice. For those of you that have not yet endeavored to do the dual monitor thing, you can never go back. You'll be totally spoiled. But it's awesome. The only thing you want to be conscious of is if you start streaming, that extra draw to run the second monitor can become a little bit of an issue. So just keep in mind. 6 a.m. isn't a deal breaker. I totally understand why you're wanting to reach your... You are a dear, my friend. I love you for that. Seriously. With great pleasure. Tom Atkins! You win the Andy. No. So the point being, the Canon M52. So I'm kind of excited about that. The thing about that camera that is the only detractor. So now I can actually really kind of talk about it. So you're looking at a Canon EOS R. These guys are Mark II. Sorry, Canon 7Ds Mark I that I'm bringing in via USB. The M50 Mark II has clean HDMI, but aside from that, it's basically the same camera. There are a couple other small changes. You can also, it's more friendly for kind of like your Instagram stories and stuff like that. It'll shoot in this position natively, but the big complaint I saw was like they could have done that in firmware, which arguably they could have. But the thing is, I'm a Canon shop, quote unquote, and I love the Canon stuff. The thing about the M series is apparently the lenses are not interchangeable with any of the EOS family, which is the one consideration. But for $699 for a 15 through 45 and like $800 for the 16 through 45 and a larger lens, like it's really, really, really hard to beat. And I'm going to forget. Richard, please mention the name of your There we go. What's going on, Ben? How you doing? Good to see you. Pleasure. I trust all as well. Um, so, Rich, can you put through the name of your camera again? Sport. G Camps. I brought him in for the lead to play my guitar. Uh, Eric always goes. There we go. Wow, that was weird. There we go. Yeah, I love it. Thank you. I received that affirmation. Thank you. Uh, what is going on? Why are you naked marketing? Uh, it's an interesting thing. Hopefully, it will serve me well. Uh, aw, thank you for that. And I know that it's been. We're a doggy household here, so we lost one a couple of years ago, and I had to put our old guy down. And there is nothing as gut wrenching as losing somebody that's been such a pal. Back when I was still at the teaching studio, Rembrandt would come down there and hang out on the days that I taught. So that dog and I spent a lot of time together. So I feel you, Rick, and I'm sorry. I know exactly how you feel. Aw, thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. It's something, but I will receive that with the spirit with which it's sent. And here's the thing: I want to make it better. That's all I want to do. I want better, and that's the goal. Um, that's so funny. I can always see that's an iPhone thing, or maybe it's on. What is that beautiful Blaze guitar behind you? Okay. Well, I think he meant blue, but he's talking about. All right, so NGD. Oh, I don't have that demo yet. So that right, dang it, that right there is the Fender. I think it's a 1952 Esquire reissue. It's unreal, and it's really, 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 really. So okay, so the amp there is a inspired by a very famous, very, very, very expensive amplifier, and I'm not going to even respond into whether I can confirm or deny what that is inspired by, but it is an amazing amp. So I spent a bunch of time playing that Esquire today because Robin Ford, who also uses one of those amps, although he uses the actual amp, the Esquire into that actual amp, which may or may not have been the inspiration for that one back there. It's a pretty amazing sound. It was unreal. So that's amp. It's new to me as of Sunday, and I'm very happy about that. It's touring mode with a snap-on grill cover. There we go. Oh, a touring mod. Oh, right. Yes, I've seen those, and I was like, what is that? Thank you for that. Good. What he's talking about is for the Mesa Boogie model that he was talking about the cabinet. Hang on. Scrolling up so we can get the model number. There we go. 4YB. Awesome. Thank you for that. I will sleep better knowing. Our highways are like off-roading. Wherever it is that bamboo forest is, that was a scary ride. Okay, now I get a chance to talk about the China story. So we're in, I don't know, wherever the heck it is, and so Ivan has sent me to do this trade show. I think it was Music China was the name of the trade show, and it was awesome. It was right around when New Instrumental came out, and I was playing the 5470. That was kind of like a flavor for them. And so I kind of went out on this clinic, and the venues were packed. It was a big deal. It was awesome. And so we're in the city, and so it's like a fairly big street, 2 lanes, left-hand turn lane. I'm in the van. there's a car in the left-hand turn lane facing us. I kid you not, the van passes the car in the left-hand turn lane, goes into traffic, passes him on the left, and then pulls back into the lane. I almost had a heart attack. I've never. It was the most insane move I've ever seen anywhere, and I survived. But I was like, if this is it, I'm dying in China. I don't know how my body's going to get home. What's going on, Tom? How you doing? Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Love that pattern there. There we go. EOS M200. Thank you very much. Okay, then I just said this thing about the EOS lenses. So then let me rephrase. The M series does not have interchangeable with the other ones. But the thing is that what Richard got was the EOS M200, and it basically has every feature that you could possibly need for streaming that the M50 does, except for its pennies on the dollar. It's like $300. Arguably the best deal you can get for a camera if you're looking to stream, and that's why you bought it. Love it, love it, love it. Gear Garage shirts. I'm gonna have to take that up with the chairwoman of the board. We will get to that. That is a must get done. You know, the thing is, all right. So here we got the G&L. So there was a period of time my buddy Critter, also known as Chris Lewis, had several G&Ls here on loan. They are phenomenal instruments. The Comanche was an instrument that I spent a lot of time doing demos with. Great guitar. Their T-style instruments are all great. They make great guitars. Period. 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 No comment. I would say no if it were no. This amp's ridiculous. Well, and this is congratulations, first of all. I hope she got some shoes or something appropriate. A setup, it makes all the difference in the world. And it's actually one of the cool things about the instruments that are coming from Fender now is they are doing an exceptionally good job of producing excellent instruments, and they're coming out of the factory and going out in the world set up proper, which is really important. Oh, dude. That was I was something. It was like nothing you've ever seen. All right. Well, I have for now answered all questions. Okay, so let's do this. So we're going to go until 7:39. The other thing I'm going to be doing, so I'm going to be going a little less long, just because I don't want it to be this crazy, never end sort of thing. It allows me to also kind of have a little bit more order and focus. So one of the things I'm also contemplating, I would love your feedback on, is having individual areas of every show where one of which is kind of maybe a little mini tech spotlight where we talk a little bit about this particular thing. There's a Sony shotgun mic. There's a new Canon camera, and just kind of take a moment and talk about that. Not go super deep, but actually talk about that and then answer any questions around that. The other thing is some new piece of gear. Where I am going in mad demo, shooting video, and lessons. What's happened with the lesson thing is that, I'm shooting more content faster than I've ever imagined. I mean, it used to be, it would take me days to shoot a gear demo. In the midst of that same day, I shot the Boss video. I had a couple pre-existing clips from that, but I literally did the Fender bass demo from top to bottom. Although I did actually repurpose that kind of the Van Halen-y track from last Saturday and just recut the bass for that. But the idea is I basically, a little bit of a reveal. I have 1, 2, 3 cameras connected to 1, 2, 3 computers. So I use this application, Ecamm Live, to basically capture those cameras. And then what I do is I bring them in to Premiere, and then I edit that. The thing that has been the biggest problem, and I finally figured out the workaround for that, is that the monitors on all 3 of these computers are completely different. So what looks like it's great on one computer, I bring it in on the other, and the color's wrong. I've had this problem with red. Red is my nemesis right now. But the solution, if you take this approach, and what's neat about this is I had these two old 7Ds, and Ecamm Live allows you to bring them in using a USB cable. And so what the solution is to bring them all in on the same computer. You can't record 3 unique separate feeds that way, but I can kind of compare the cameras and set them so they look right on my editing computer, and then run them back into the other machines and kind of take any settings. Ecamm Live has this basically a camera. What do they call that? It basically adjusts the parameters of the camera. Picture settings. There we go. That allows you to kind of fine tune the gamma, saturation, tint, temperature, and brightness. Or you can load a LUT, which, by the way, is an acronym for lookup table. Amazing the things you learn when you endeavor to learn them. But the point being is that, oh, awesome. Thank you for that, Tom. Awesome. Because here's the thing is that I think in the next 2 or 3 years, we're all going to be kind of going, hey, I want to share my content with my friends, family. Oh, by the way, I do want to bring whenever I get stuff wrong, I'll always try and remember, kind of like have an editorial moment. This one, I fortunately kind of got it right. The whole Facebook thing, there was a clarification thing that they put out, and basically what they said was what I kind of guessed. Not super genius guess, but it seemed kind of obvious. It's like they put out this tip jar, and then that was happening around artists streaming copywritten materials, and the record companies went foul because they're now Facebook is actively allowing people to infringe on copyrights and be compensated for it. So in their little statement, it basically said, to honor our partners, blah, 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 and protect their digital intellectual property. So I was like, that basically, and it makes a lot of sense, because why would Facebook do that? The record companies threw a hissy fit that people are able to monetize covers, and there's no method of collection for that. So it actually makes a lot of sense. So let's take a moment here. Let me see what else I've got here. Okay, so I'm going to play this clip. I played it the other night, but this is the 52 Telecaster reissue. No. Got to be a 50 Telecaster. No. 1950 Broadcaster. Right, it's the 70th anniversary of the Broadcaster. So the Broadcaster is what the Telecaster was. But it's the Broadcaster was the Broadcaster before it became the Telecaster. So, Doppler, seriously. So amazing guitar. The funny thing is, oh, no, wrong again. Okay, 2 wrongs. So the guitar that I'm going to play, and this was on there, and it's going to be on the Boss demo that's going to come out tomorrow probably. It's the Thin Line Telly. And the funny thing is that, when I saw that guitar available for review from Fender, I thought, greatest funk guitar that I don't yet have to demo. I'm like, this is going to be perfect. And I picked it up, and it is this rock and roll machine. I was so sure in my head, oh, this is funk. So I just so called that play wrong. So the interesting thing is sometimes the picture we draw in our head, and I'm saying this as a review, so it's not sometimes until you have the guitar in front of you that you actually kind of go, oh, did I get that wrong? All right, here it is. And drop D. Like, what the heck is that? It's like, that ain't, I mean, it may be funky-ish, but that is not like chink, 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 a chink, chink. So the neat thing is that there's a bunch of new gear that's showing up here, and I'm excited to just basically just be as prolific as I possibly can in demoing stuff. I will rabbit trail a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that I've got to work into the demo cycle here are the new Boss loopers. Hopefully I'm not going to destroy anything here. Boom. So for those of us that stream, that have been battling with this, like, I'm running Pro Tools. The great thing about Helix is with the QWERTY key command control from 2.9, you're able to basically stop and start Pro Tools with your feet. But it is generally not a great idea to be running Pro Tools off of your streaming computer. It's one of the advantages of having a second computer. But the disadvantage of running multiple computers and bringing in the video from one computer and the other is there will be some latency. So not bad per se, because if you're just kind of running, showing Pro Tools over on, if you will, this being my A computer, which it's my main computer, and then bringing it in from, I actually call this 1, 2, and no, I call it A, B, and C is what they're called, right? Not that it matters, but it allows me to kind of think of the order on which I lay things on the timeline in Premiere, actually, which is my A camera, boom, which is my B camera, boom, which is my C camera. That's actually how I've chosen which computer I'm going to go to. But the point being is that basically that B computer, if I have footage coming from there, I got to bring it in on a capture card into the A computer during a stream. That allows me to run Pro Tools on that second computer, which is actually like a 2018 MacBook Pro. But the downside is that there will be some latency. So if I happen to, want to go to that computer and have, I don't know, a Zoom thing happening over there and then pipe that in, there's latency. So latency is the thing that you will deal with. The point being is these loop stations now give you the ability. I've got to see how much they will allow you to do, but I know for a fact it will at least allow you to do kind of an A and a B section, such that you can basically, if you're going to stream and play along with something, you can control that from your feet, which is a huge convenience. And not only that, by having an A and a B section, you can have like a little intro thing that you loop, and then when you're ready to go into the song. The other things, I have an RC300, which gives you the ability to create 3 separate sections in the same song. So basically, one of which could be your intro loop, the other of which could be the entire form of the song, and then the other which would be an outro loop that's just kind of, allows you to jam again over the intro, over the outro, and then run the actual form of that. That convenience, first of all, being able to control that virtually, is something in Pro Tools you're not going to be able to do. Ableton is a great application for being able to do that, but these looper pedals are probably something that Chris Stark, I'm thinking of you. Andrew Bonica, I'm thinking of you. Tom Atkins, I'm thinking of you. And all, anybody that is wanting to do this, so that it's going to enable you to get there, I think, in a really, really powerful way. And so basically what you do is you create your mix in your DAW of choice, and then you bring it in, right? And that really makes it something that's self-contained, is not going to crash, doesn't really draw on any computer power. You just got to figure out how you're going to get it into your setup. And so, Rick, I know you and I had this conversation about kind of wanting to get stuff to your camera. The great news is, and this is kind of one of the things that we'll be talking about, is some of these tech hacks. Where'd it go? Did I put it away? Oh, my word. That's me needing to eat dinner. Doppler. But the great thing about, and this guy is sub $200, so I've got a ton of I/O on here that I could use this to run my, let's see here. I'm 99% positive you could run a stereo mix on a loop station and your guitar from this box into your camera. And that type of functionality is huge. It's just super easy. And just for those of you that are kind of coming in, quote unquote, halfway on a conversation, the conversation that Rick and I had been having is he just wants to be able to bring it straight to the camera, have the audio and the video in sync there so he can do what he wants to do with that without having to edit it, which makes an awful lot of sense. So, and the reasons that you might want to do that are as follows. Let's say, for example, you don't have or don't want to have some sort of fancier or even not as fancy audio interface, because these are actually audio interfaces. They come bundled with Ableton Live Light, that piece of paper you saw me floating around at the beginning of the stream. This is the Live Light that comes bundled with. Ableton is amazing. And one of the great things about Ableton is you're able to set up markers on the timeline where it jumps. And Ableton has a relatively light footprint compared to something like Pro Tools, which just seems to want to suck a ton of the memory out. But Ableton is kind of a loop-centric application. So the idea is you basically create little loops of music, depending on how you want to. You can draw it out on a regular timeline, or just have sections where you cut pieces of audio and have them just loop, and stereo section, and then you just target that particular section with a marker, and boom, you go there, boom, you go there. And it's really fast, and it's a very efficient way to do that, and it's a great application. I'm a Pro Tools guy, but I've used Ableton Live Lite. It came bundled with the M Audio, their kind of wannabe pod box, which the black box, there you go, which is a great piece of device. Oh, new comments, hold on. That's a great question. What is my process for creating backing tracks? And what's my favorite easy drummer kit? The funny thing is, I'll answer that last part first. It's whatever one I forget that I used the last time. I am really bad about not coming up with my go-to drum kit. Now, the thing is that there is some method to the madness in that. You know what? I'm going to play a clip. Hang on. Give me a moment. Hang on. You. Testing. All right, you can still hear me. That's good. All right, just one sec. I got to find this puppy. I'm going to play the Fender demo, but I'm just going to play the audio clips because I had so much fun doing that. But the first one's got a drum groove. And where the heck are you? Okay, I will get you here. And testing 1, 2. And right, you're under Fender. F is in Fender. It's good to alphabetize things. There we go. Fender demos. There we go. Renders. Date modified. Date 12. No. Final 3. There we go. All right. Good. Check it out. Here we go. Hi, I'm Doug, and welcome. All right, let's see. Oh, it's picking up my audio. Great. Let me scrub the timeline. I'm going to get to my other demo. This was me having way too much fun. Advantage of that. Let's take a listen. In case you didn't know, the American Professionals. All right. So that first clip is me just kind of playing in some funky vibe. So the kit I'm going to pull up there is going to be completely different than the rock kit that I would pull up. My favorite sound that I haven't found the perfect version of it, I like one of those metal Ludwig snares that goes cack, cack, cack. It's got that ring to it. I just love that. And so I'm always kind of searching for some version of that, but that fits in the framework of the mix, which means that sometimes I'll be pitching that. I'm big on using hi-hats. If you listen to your average drummer. So I'm going to throw a bunch of those things out at you of what I'm strategically doing inside Easy Drummer. The way that I use the hi-hat is basically the biggest vehicle that I use to make the drums get louder or softer. What will happen most of the time is I'll throw up a pattern that'll be arguably the pattern I'll play through the most of the thing, unless it's a longer clip. And then I will do is manipulate how loud the hi-hat is if there's kind of an A and a B section, or either have an open hi-hat or go to a closed hi-hat. So that's where the driving point is. And if you listen to your average drummer, the way, yes, their snare is going to get louder and softer. Yes, the kick drum pattern is going to change. But traditionally, the way they use the hi-hat or the other cymbals usually informs a lot about where they're setting the dynamics for everything else. And if you think about, your average recording session, drums are compressed, so they can only get so loud. So ironically, the harder you hit it, you don't have the additional velocity. It's just the sound changes, but it may not be that much louder in the mix, ironically. So the I'll usually write the riff. I have a just outside of frame there, I've got the Strobo Plus HD from my friends at oh my word, the hell, Peterson. Thank you. And so if I need to kind of just get the tempo there, I do that. The other thing that I do is I kind of find where I want to speed up or slow down, and kind of tell myself to relax where it is. So when I actually start recording, I know to train myself. This is where I get excited. So I actually have to kind of go a beat or two before the measure where I start to get excited. I just remind myself to relax, maybe take a little breath. So the idea is I map the tempo, then I go into Pro Tools, which may or may not be where I actually start with the click. But much of the time I'll actually start with the click. Or if it's something that's funky like that, where it's a bass thing, I may actually go in, and what I did with that one is I went and found a pattern that kind of fit the riff. And so immediately I'm kind of trying to find where it is. And that one, that bass riff at the top, the way it comes out, the drum pattern is doom, 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 like that. And it's a pretty, kind of used a million times bass drum thing. But then you're kind of finding where's the dismount beat that I'm going to get off, boom, doom, like doom, 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 that one, doom, doom. So, you're finding where you're going to need to get out of your riff and end the thing. So that's where how I use Easy Drummer is important. I wish I could say, oh, these are my favorite drum sounds. But I actually am kind of always just kind of going through there, not writing down favorites. And part of that is really bad production process. But the other part of it is kind of like, I don't want to miss something that I would have found by searching and just kind of go, well, I'm just going to use what I know. Because then all of a sudden things start to sound a lot alike, and it starts to become habit as opposed to creativity. Right now, the number one thing about what it is that I'm trying to do and how I'm trying to do it is I want to stay 100%, and I encourage you to do this when and where you can, stay as immersed in the creative process as is humanly possible, such that what happens is the outworking of that is creativity. It's the expression of that space. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but it's also for some of us sometimes isn't a conscious thought. One of the things, the way that I respond to this kind of busyness when I have so many opportunities around the ability to demo so much gear, instead of freaking out about it, I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever, because now I can live in the creative space and not get distracted like I do when I'm like, oh, I'm in demo mode. Oh, now I'm doing this thing over here, and now I have to crawl back into that creative space. It's actually much easier for me to just leave the light switch on. Then kind of like, oh, I'm in this mode now. I got to go over and do this. So I'm very excited about that. So the idea is that I will come up with a vibe. Most of the time, it's driven from the guitar. Then I will record, bring in the drum part. Usually, one should record the bass first. Most of the time, I'm so anal retentive about the time on the guitar, and it's been actually one of the cool things about the lesson demos is like I'm not forcing myself to try and be perfect. The performances of the actual exercises, I'm relatively anal about that. But when I'm talking through stuff and I'm kind of playing, kind of off the cuff for the casual lesson vibe, I'm letting some stuff go that in years past I wouldn't like. Oh, it wasn't perfectly in time. Oh, the notes weren't the same volume. It's like, oh, and honestly, nobody cares but me. But those are things that I'm just choosing in the busyness of the season. Like, I'm going to let the production quality down a little bit, just a little bit, such that I can stay in the flow instead of getting stuck at one thing. I'm like, you know what? Good enough is good enough. So that's it. And there's a conversation I've had with Rick from Tune Track about doing some sort of recording workshop. And so thanks for the reminder about that, because that's something that needs to be done. You're too kind, Chris. Was on an email thread with my guys from NAMM. MT Power Drum Kit. Check your PM. Look at you guys. That's awesome. The telly is awesome. The broadcaster. I've bit the I don't know, whatever it is I've bitten the crazy bug, or it's bitten me. Tune track kit. Not familiar with that one. Okay, there we go. I don't know where the no caster fits into the mix. I think I don't know, but I will find out. Right, good telly. Like, you got to understand. I watch these things back, and I'm like, and part of it's almost humorous, because I'm like, it looks so straight. And then the latest thing that I do, I hold my breath. There you go. I start turning red. I'm like, it is the strangest thing, but I'm like, I am. Are you not entertained? These are the stock pickups. The funny thing is, I was like, I think these are DiMarzio's, and yeah, DiMarzio has started basically imprinting their logo into the pickups as opposed to putting them in white paint. So these are DiMarzio's. I do not know which they are. They sound really good, but I have a feeling I'm going to probably put a PAF Joe or something like that in the neck pickup. What's going on, Headstock Harem? Double D, I'm doing great. With great pleasure, thank you. Thank you. The Big Boss Looper, it's a Fred Astaire, time to work into a show. So that's the thing, is like, even if it's just a single one, but the idea of just being able to just have a single track that you can stop and start from your feet and then just load the next one up. I think, here's the thing. Let me put my feet where my mouth is and see how that goes. And that's awesome. Ableton is awesome. A lot of people love Reaper, especially, I think, on the PC side of things, as I recall. Kilo, what's going on? Nice to see you here. Thanks so much. Freak of Nature. I dig. Thank you very much. I will do my best. That's so funny. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so it has an built-in fantastic. There we go. Neck heel on that bass. Oh, dude. So it's over there. The neck heel is completely insane. It's basically a 5-bolt neck, and basically they've done this. It looks like this, but on a P bass. Amazing. And yes, hi-hats are everything. New comments. All right. Oh, wow. Hang on a second. Okay, hang on. Hi-hats. Yep. Hi-hats are everything. Love the bell of the ride cymbal. I don't use the bell a lot when I'm programming these days, because I'm lazy-ish. I'm not truly lazy. Like, when I actually start messing with the drums, it's a thing. It's usually when I actually put something out that's got drums on it. It's actually, I will have spent, by the time I'm done, an hour of drum fidgeting. Yes, cymbals are all about excitements. I love listening to drummers. Absolutely. Yep. Got to pay attention to drum. Brad, have a great night if you've already gone. The black guitar by the Marshall. That'll be the Steve Vai. It actually is brown wood color, known as a Woody, but that is a lovely guitar called a Gem Woody. Brad, have a great night. The black guitar is also... There we go. Thank you very much, Rick. There we go. Sphincteronius is a Dopplerism. I'm afraid it is. Yes, so those S series, what's neat about them is this guy is a mahogany body. So it's basically like an SG and a Les Paul combined that are not going to attack your neck and shoulder, which is good. Broadcaster, no caster, telecaster. So there we go. Okay, good. Yes, I think that's the way it goes. Definitely, maybe. Ironically, Fender was sued for using the name Broadcaster by Gretsch. And guess who owns Gretsch now? Oh, that's so funny. They cut off the word broad. I was told that at Songbird's Guitar Museum. That's awesome, Chris. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Doppster is going to check out. Thank you for all the great vibes. What a great group of people. Holy cow, like the positivity on 11, the engagement, like we're all in. And I love that. I can tell you, there's nothing worse than doing a stream and having nobody chiming in. And this is a conversation. So I thank you for that. Have a wonderful evening. Have an amazing rest of this week. Have an even better weekend. And I'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you so much. Cheers.